During Lord Simcoe's brief tenure as Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada, early settlers cleared and farmed this area. Today, an ultra-modern civic center marks the enormous progress made by the citizens of Oshawa, Ontario. Highly industrialized, Oshawa is still a place where children have ample room to enjoy their own special world of make-believe. Where an older generation can relax in companionable conversation, and just can and do take part in today's more frenetic world. Since the early years of Confederation, there has been a close affinity between Oshawa and the McLaughlin family, pioneers in Canada's automotive industry. The original carriage company was founded in 1878 and became the McLaughlin Motor Car Company in 1907. Colonel R.S. McLaughlin, native son and philanthropist, shows his magnificent formal gardens to David M. Stewart, one of our nation's leading researchers of Canadian history. These gardens have become one of the foremost showplaces of Canada's Motor City. In this hub of industry and beauty, 25% of the population of over 80,000 work in General Motors' huge assembly plants. And it was here in Oshawa that the 1969 Canadian Curling Championship took place. Shortly after 2 p.m. on Monday, March 3rd, the Caledonia Pipe Band, under the direction of Pipe Major Neil McRae, headed the parade of curlers, officials, and various VIPs through the streets of Canada's Motor City to the Civic Auditorium. As at previous Briers, this 40th playdown provided the opportunity for curlers and fans who had made the journey before to renew old acquaintances. Familiar faces were on hand as the opening day crowd headed for the entrance and the chance to see the top curlers from across the country compete for the MacDonald Brier tankard. Preceded by the pipe band, the 44 curlers from across Canada who had survived the grueling playdowns in their home provinces paraded down the center sheet to start a week of curling that is the toughest in the world. Before a champion would be named, these curlers would throw more than 222 tons of granite from hack to house. General Chairman of the Oshawa Brier Committee, Jim Such, introduced the various officials. The Honourable Matthew Diamond, Provincial Minister of Health, spoke on behalf of the Ontario government. Then His Worship, Mayor Hayward Murdoch, extended the hospitality of Oshawa to curlers and fans alike. Senior Brier Trustee, the Honourable Thane A. Campbell, wished all the competing curlers well. And finally, Harry Carter, President of the Canadian Curling Association, spoke on behalf of all Canadian curlers. Then Coley Campbell, Brier Trustee, held the broom for fellow clansman Thane Campbell. With sweeping by Harry Carter and some fancy footwork by Chief Justice Ted Culleton of Saskatchewan, the third trustee, the opening walk made its way down the ice to officially open the 1969 Canadian Curling Championship. Then the traditional business of exchanging pins, tossing coins for first stone. In their game with Quebec, Northern Ontario is leading 9-7 in this 12th end, but the Air Force rink from Bagotville is lying 5 as third Chip Thompson of the Kenora Club goes for the Quebec shot rock. He pushes it back, and now Northern Ontario lies shot on the 8-foot. Big Earl Carson has been to the Brier 4 times, but this is his first visit as a skip. He asks third Doug Stewart to get rid of the Northern Ontario rock. This is Doug's second trip to the Canadian Championship. He curled at Saskatoon in 1965. He gets the takeout, removing 2 of his own stones, but Quebec still lies 4. Skip Terry Johnson is 28 years old and has been curling for 14 of those years. Right now, he'd like to freeze to the Quebec shot rock. The intern seems to be on target, but is a bit hit. He pushes the Quebec stone back to lie 1. With 4 rocks in the house and having last stone, Carson figures he'd better get rid of the Kenora shot rock. He gets it plus 1 of his own and rolls out. He still has 3 rocks counted. Johnson has to try for the freeze once again. His only hope is to lay up against Quebec shot rock at the back of the house. Again, the intern is right on the broom. The sweepers try hard, but the rock is too light. It cuts the button to lie shot, but provides the Quebec skip with an open target. Doug Stewart calls for narrow ice, and Carson takes dead aim. He lets go a boomer. He hammers the Northern Ontario stone out of the house and rolls out himself, but he counts 3 big points. Quebec downs Northern Ontario by the score of 10-9. In the second draw, Johnson ran into defending champion Ron Northcott of Alberta. Northern Ontario is lying 2 in this 6th end as Northcott goes for a raise and a possible double. He gets the raise, but now Northern Ontario's second stone is shot. The Kenora skip figures an out-turn draw to the pocket is the play to make. Greenie Green and Pete Peterson lean on the brooms. The rock is narrow, but rubs off an Alberta stone and rolls shot on the 4-foot. Two-time Brier and world champion skip, Northcott wants a hit and a roll. Big Dave Gerlach gives the broom for narrow ice. Fred Story and Bernie Sparks watch closely, but the Alberta skip hits on the wrong side, gets the shot rock, but rolls for an easy hit. Northern Ontario is trailing 6-3 at this point and wants to narrow the margin. Again, the front end goes to work. They get the hit and roll to count 2 and narrow the score 6-5. But Alberta goes on to win the game 10-9. In the 10th end of the Newfoundland-Manitoba game, the island rink lies 2 as Bob Robinson, the Manitoba skip, goes for the draw behind a short guard. He makes a great shot, and now Manitoba lies 1. Playing in his 5th Brier, Bill Piercy is always popular with the fans and can also be counted on to make some great plays. As witness this shot. With a little assistance, he pulls in to make the perfect freeze and lies shot in the 4-foot. Trailing by 1 point, Robinson has to make a perfect shot to draw even with the foursome from St. John's. With the front end adding the necessary help, the Manitoba skip pulls off a magnificent draw to the button to count 1. After 10 ends, it's 8-all. Manitoba is shot and has last rock coming home here in the 12th. Piercy is after the shot rock. Gets past the guard, pushes the Manitoba rock back to roll shot onto the 4-foot. Newfoundland lies 2. Now it's Manitoba's turn to go for the freeze. Robinson delivers the in-turn with great care. Al Shinfield watches carefully. The stone is on target, but a shade heavy. Hits and rolls. Manitoba lies 1. Leading 10-8 and with second and third rocks in the house, Piercy wants to see the end of that Manitoba stone. Laws hollers for action. Al Andrews and Ken Easton go to work. And how about that? Newfoundland lies 2. To stay alive in this game, Robinson needs a double. The potential is there, but can he make it? He gets 1, just misses the second. Big Bill and his boys from St. John's defeat Manitoba. Final score, Newfoundland 11, Manitoba 8. The score is 6-6 in this game between Alberta and Prince Edward Island. Northcott is after PEI's shot rock. With Ron having last rock, PEI skip Smitty Smith wants to sit out in front of the 12-foot with this, his last stone. Last year, the Islanders had a 7-3 record and are always a big threat. The front end pulls it in, and now the Albertans have a real problem. Ron consults his entire rink before deciding on the in-turn draw. Then the usual flawless delivery. Story and Sparks watch closely, then apply the brooms. It's right out of the book. The Alberta stone comes into the 8-foot to cut out. With Skip's last rocks to come in the 10th, Alberta is shot as Northcott delivers the in-turn draw. He wants to set up a guard on the 8-foot. He's a little heavy, but draws into the 4-foot to lie 2. With a chance of a double and the possibility of picking up 2 big points, Smitty lets go a bomb. But he's narrow, gets 1 Alberta rock, and stays to count 1. It's 7-all after 10 ends. They blank the 11th end, and now with Skip's rocks to come, the house is empty as the Island Skip tries to put his first rock in front of the house. He's heavy, but draws in to lie 1 on the 4-foot. With last rock, Northcott has 1 stone in front of the house. He was hoping to hide behind this, but now must get rid of PEI's shot rock. The in-turn is narrow, and heavy sweeping just manages to let the Alberta stone get a piece of the island rock, and again the house is empty. Smitty Smith must draw behind the short Alberta guard. It's a great shot, and he comes in to lie 1 on the 8-foot. Smitty has now put the pressure right back on the Alberta skip. Deciding against following the PEI rock, Ron decides on the out-turn draw to the 4-foot. Delivered by one of the greatest shot makers the game has ever seen, the Alberta stone comes into count 1 and give the Calgary club a big win. Alberta defeats Prince Edward Island 8-7. When New Brunswick and Ontario met, they brought together 2 young curlers who had each been to the Brier before, but were making their first appearance as skips. Ontario's Ken Buchan is after the Maritime Rink's shot rock. He leads 10-9 in this 12th end. But he's narrow, moves the New Brunswick rock over, takes out his own 2 rocks, and rolls out, leaving the Moncton rink lying 1. Hap Maybe had curled with his father in the 1960 and 62 championships. Now, with last rock and down 1, he wants to spread things around a bit and pick up 2 points to win his second game. He draws to the 12-foot to lie 2. Buchan had curled with Bobby Mann at Brandon in Charlottetown. Right now he's trying for his first win at Oshawa. With his last stone, he wants to freeze to Hap's shot rock. But he's a little light and lies shot on the 4-foot. It's not a difficult shot for the young southpaw from Moncton, but he doesn't want to remove one of his own stones. He punches the Ontario rock through, rolls out, but still counts 2 to win the game. Final score, New Brunswick 11, Ontario 10. Duke Smale of Prince George, BC, took 8 years to get a rink into the Brier. In the 9th draw, he met the Northcott demolition crew from Calgary. The Smale rink had run up 8 straight wins at this point and were the big surprise at the Oshawa Brier. Now they were given a good chance to upset the defending champions. Here in the 9th, Northcott was narrow on an attempted wick and roll. British Columbia remains shot. Alberta leads 8-5 with BC having last rock. Pete Sherba gives wide ice as Smale goes for a second counter. He wants to nudge the Alberta rock over and roll behind the short guard. But he hits right on the nose. BC still lies 1. It's consultation time again. Now the decision is made. Or is it? Ron knows he can't take any chances with this crew from Canada's Evergreen Playground, so let's try it right there. And he's got plenty of weight on it. A great shot with a perfect roll to leave Alberta short. It also leaves Duke Smale shaking his head. Now he calls a meeting. The result? Wide ice and an attempted raise. The sweepers have their work cut out for them, but it's a beautiful rock. Bends in to raise Smale's second stone in for shot. BC counts 1 and narrows the score to 8-6, but Alberta went on to win the game 9-8 and remain the only unbeaten rink in the Brier. Peter Hope of Nova Scotia was another former Brier competitor who was skipping his first rink in the Canadian Championship. Playing against Ken Buchan's Ontario team, he's got a 4-all game going as Buchan throws his last rock in the 6th end. It comes in nicely, and Ontario is lying 3. With the shot rock well protected by 3 guards, Hope has little choice but to go for a hit and roll. He has plenty of weight on the in-turn. He makes a great shot to roll to the 8-foot and count 1 and go ahead 5-4. The Maritimers go on to win the game 10-9. In the 10th draw, Alberta ran into a fired-up Ontario rink. Ken Buchan, with only 1 win to his credit, is giving the Western foursome trouble and leads 6-5 here in the 8th end. Lying 1, Northcott tries for 2 with his last stone. All rocks are in play at this point. He has a beautiful stone, but it's doubtful if he's edged out Ontario's second rock. Only hope to stay ahead of the Foothills rink is to try a raise. He's a shade narrow, but the weight is perfect. He raises his stone, it rubs off an Alberta rock, and rolls to the button to count 1. All 16 rocks are in play. Ontario goes ahead 7-5 after 8 ends. In the 10th end, Ontario still leads by 1 point, has last rock and is lying 2. Buchan is after an extra guard. He's a shade narrow, but does come in to add a few extra inches of granite coverage for his shot rock. Dave Gerlach calls for the in-turn to the outside. The idea is to hit the Ontario second stone and roll into the edge of the 4-foot for shot. But Ron is narrow and slides too far. He cuts out one Ontario rock to leave the London rink still lying 1. Ken Buchan goes for the same shot. If he can push the Alberta rock back, he'll count a big 3-ender. He's past the guards, but freezes to the western rock. Ontario picks up 2 and goes ahead 9-6 after 10 ends. However, Alberta came back to defeat Ontario 11-9. The BC rink had the last bye and finished with a 9-1 record. Now in the 11th draw, Alberta has to get past their perennial rival, Saskatchewan. The high backswing of Bob Pickering's delivery is the trademark of the skip from Avonlea. His draw comes into lie shot on the 4-foot. Point, Alberta leads 5-4 and has last rock. Northcott has elected to try and raise his short guard onto Saskatchewan's shot rock. The rock hits on the wrong side, removes Saskatchewan's second stone, leaving the wheat province lying 1. Garnet Campbell gives the ice. And this time the big back swinger lets go a sizzler. And it's a fine shot. Moves 2 Alberta rocks and leaves Saskatchewan still shot. Incidentally, Garnet Campbell has set a record by this, his 8th appearance as a Brier competitor. Wanting to maintain his small lead over Pickering, Northcott again is after the raise. With the experience gained in 5 previous Briers, Ron is not about to be rushed. Story and Spark sweep, Ron rests. And the stone is dead on. A magnificent shot, leaving Alberta counting 3 to go ahead 8-4 after 9 ends. Saskatchewan came right back with a big 3-ender of their own in the 10th, and now lie 2 here in the 11th end as Northcott goes for a double. Another great shot by the Calgary skip as he removes both Saskatchewan rocks to lie shot on the 12-foot. There is no hesitation on what the next shot is going to be. Pickering lets fly. The hit and small roll leaves the Avonlea rink lying 1. Alberta's clear intention to blank the end and be 1 up with last rock coming home. A very nice position to be in, indeed. But you can't win them all. Saskatchewan steals a point, and it's a brand new ball game. It's 8-all going into the 12th end. The house is empty with the last 3 rocks to come. Saskatchewan has 2 short guards ready to raise or hide behind. Northcott wants them both out of it. Mission accomplished. With his last rock, Pickering has no choice but to draw in behind the Alberta stone sitting in front of the house. And here is Saskatchewan's last rock. Bob Thomas and Gary Ford keep a close watch. It draws in beautifully behind the Alberta stone. There's still a piece of it showing, but it's a great shot, and Saskatchewan lies 1. Taking about a foot of ice, Ron Northcott prepares to throw the most important rock in his 23 years of curling. If he makes this shot, he'll be the first man to win the Canadian Curling Championship in 10 straight games since fellow Albertan Matt Baldwin turned the trick in 1957. He hits Pickering's rock and rolls shot on the 12-foot. By a score of 9-8, Alberta wins the 1969 Canadian Curling Championship and the MacDonald Brier tankard with a perfect record. A magnificent team effort by the brilliant young curlers from the Foothills province. And their happiness is shared by proud and tearful wives who take a moment from the press and photographers to offer their own congratulations. Then it's time for the march in to the presentation stand. Northcott, Sparks, and Story have been here twice before, but for Big Dave Gerlach, it's a new and exciting moment. Jim Such, General Chairman of the Oshawa Brier Committee, then introduced David M. Stewart, President of MacDonald Tobacco Incorporated. Mr. Stewart then presented the coveted MacDonald Brier tankard to the winning ring. Skip Northcott, third Dave Gerlach, second Bernie Sparks, and lead Fred Story. Then Harry Carter presented runner-up prizes to Duke Smale's outstanding rink from British Columbia. Ron thanked the committee, fans, and fellow curlers. And to the citizens of Oshawa, our thanks for a memorable week of hospitality at the 1969 Canadian Curling Championship.